I want to play for you a really good video of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she spoke to reporters and called out Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace. This is on the subject of the trans bathroom grab for attention by Nancy Mace. Please put me back in the headlines and the spotlight. And she's getting it, which is why in this segment, I won't get back into addressing what I did on Piers Morgan, what I did over the last couple of days, which is the substance of who's correct if we are going to have the discussion about trans people in bathrooms, who's correct on that argument, which I happen to be on that, which is supported by the data on what makes people the most safe. And it is that Nancy Mace is incorrect about saying the one trans member of Congress should be banned from going into the bathroom that aligns with her gender identity. Okay, but I already went through that. Instead, I want to stay focused on point one, which is why are they even focusing on this so much? But before getting into that, AOC will again get into the substance of what happens when Nancy Mace is put in charge or puts herself in charge of who can go into which bathroom. Here's AOC. Click the subscribe button if you'd be so kind.
What Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans is disgusting. It is disgusting. And frankly, all it does is allow these Republicans to go around and bully any woman who isn't wearing a skirt because they think she might not look woman enough. People have a right to express themselves, to dress how they want, and to be who they are. And if a woman doesn't look woman enough to a Republican, they want to be able to inspect her genitals to use a bathroom. It's disgusting. And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
That's how it's done right there. I gave you the data-driven argument, but this is one that I haven't focused on, except for just referencing how to enforce such a thing. And that is when you start getting all obsessed on this, which again, I am sure was not something any MAGA voter was thinking about until their MAGA leaders told them to. You're then saying the only way you could enforce such a thing is if Mike Johnson or law enforcement or Nancy Mace or Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting involved in genital checks before you go in the restroom. Goodness gracious. But who was this meant to target? Newly elected Delaware Representative Sarah McBride. She's a trans woman, but she's been handling the demonization of her with grace, frankly, and keeps being clear, this is not even what I'm focused on. She says, I'm not here to fight about bathrooms. I'm here to fight for Delawareans and to bring down costs facing families. Like all members, I will follow the rules as outlined by Speaker Johnson, even if I disagree with them. Because Speaker Johnson is saying, you go to the bathroom based on your biological sex. This effort to distract from the real issues facing this country hasn't distracted me over the last several days, as I've remained hard at work preparing to represent the greatest state in the union come January. Serving in the 119th Congress will be the honor of a lifetime, and I continue to look forward to getting to know my future colleagues on both sides of the aisle. Each of us were sent here because voters saw something in us that they value. I have loved getting to see these qualities in the future colleagues that I've met, and I look forward to seeing those qualities in every member come January. I hope all of my colleagues will seek to do the same with me. I couldn't do that, okay? To be honest, if I were in this situation and they decided Luke's going to be someone we're going to use as a boogeyman, and we're doing so in such an unfair and disgusting way, I think I'd have a hard time going, I'm not going to play into your game. I've been doing it a little bit where I start arguing on it because the facts of this issue aren't complicated. And the only thing that exacerbates harassment and assault as it pertains to bathrooms is if you're forcing people to do what Nancy Mace wants to happen. So it's so hard not to get into that argument. But Sarah McBride's point is I'm not even engaging in that. I didn't come here to debate about bathrooms. I came here to work on the policy issues that matter to every American and specifically to the people of Delaware for her. That's integrity right there. And then she exposes by saying that what this is all about for Republicans. And I actually don't want to play Nancy Mace now, but let me just play it as B-roll so you can see what I'm talking about for a second. This is what it's about. And for our podcast listeners, I'm showing Nancy Mace, the Republican congresswoman who brought this resolution and has been posting hundreds of times, literally, per day about this issue. And she's on Fox News. She wasn't on as of late until this, and now she got her attention and her profile is larger. And you can take it off, Jaden, now. But is she talking about the things that people are actually concerned with? Because a little rule of thumb, this sort of demonization, again, standing alone given the substance of the argument. If we are going to engage in it, you're wrong. But even separating that, which I'm trying to do, so we don't play into Mace's thing here. This is to MAGA voters, but really to all voters. If you find yourself thinking about something that you weren't thinking about before a politician told you to, or before a media figure told you to, it might just be a culture war wedge issue that they're pushing for their own interests. Because as I mentioned to you before, long before Nancy Mace was screaming about this, you were thinking about your job security. You were thinking about the future of your children's education and their well-being while being educated. You were thinking about putting food on the table. You were thinking about if you're a veteran, your veterans benefits. If you're a senior, your senior benefits. Your Social Security, your Medicare. You were thinking about these things before someone came along and told you to. Because the politician should be speaking to what we're actually concerned about and not tricking us into hating one another and tricking us into not focusing on the most consequential issues by driving these wedge issues. But that's what especially the GOP, but the Democratic Party can do it as well, are masters at. Which is, your top concern should be something that I know because I know you guys. You're my friends, you're my family. I know you weren't thinking about it until someone told you to. You're correct that you're being victimized. It's just not by trans people. It's by these Republican politicians. Tricking you into voting for them so that they can go cut taxes for wealthy folks. So that they can go and rig our system even more in the interest of those who are already so powerful and influential. Trump working alongside the most powerful, wealthy person on the planet. And they convince you not to focus on that with this stuff. And it's amazing to see Sarah McBride identifying that. And even though it's so personal to her and they're going after her, there's no other trans person in Congress. So Mace pushing this rule is just saying that she thinks McBride is going to threaten her in some way. And McBride, even with something that personal, takes the higher ground and goes, hey, Mace, I'd like to be friends with you even you. I'd like to give you a chance as well. I'd like to work with you on issues that can uplift people. And if every Democrat did this, and only focus on those things. But what's tough before I even finish that sentence, what's tough is then once people start getting targeted, you got to jump in and defend them. So it's a hard balance of how do you not throw more fuel on the fire, play into the culture war division, while also defending people and their identity and advocating for common sense and compassionate policies. It is a tough balance, but McBride is doing something pretty incredible. Tell me your thoughts in the comments.